Imagine living in a country where you go to sleep at night, not knowing what flag will fly over your town the next morning. A place where alliances shift like the wind. Castles are built and destroyed in the blink of an eye, and every local lord dreams of ruling the entire land. This was Japan during the Sengoku Jidai, the Warring States period. For more than a century, Japan was plunged into chaos and uncertainty, a storm that would only end when one man, Tokugawa Ieyasu, finally unified the nation and ushered in a new era. Our story begins in 1467, in the elegant capital of Kyoto. On the surface, everything seems calm. The Ashikaga shogunate is still officially in power, and the imperial court carries on with its refined rituals of poetry, tea, and ceremony. But beneath this peaceful facade, the very foundations of authority are cracking. Across the country, powerful regional lords, known as daimyo, have been growing stronger. They collect their own taxes, command their own armies of samurai, and act with increasing independence. The central government is weak, and a single unspoken question hangs in the air. Who truly rules Japan? The spark that ignites the powder keg is a succession dispute. Different powerful families back different heirs to the shogunate. And what begins as a political disagreement quickly spirals into open warfare. This conflict, known as the Wenin War, engulfs the capital. For 10 long years, rival armies clash in the streets of Kyoto. Mansions are burned to the ground, entire districts are abandoned, and the once beautiful capital becomes a haunting symbol of division. When the fighting finally sputters out, there's no clear winner. The only result is a completely shattered central authority, and a country full of ambitious daimyo who now realize they can no longer rely on distant leaders in Kyoto. This is the true beginning of the Sengoku Jidai, the age of the country at war. Across the Japanese islands, a new reality takes hold. Daimyo fortify their castles, build up their local governments, and forge alliances with their neighbors or prepare to invade them. It's an age of social upheaval. Some ruling families have held power for centuries, but others are newcomers, rising from humble beginnings through sheer talent and ruthless determination. The old saying, "The low overcomes the high," becomes a daily reality, as individuals from outside the traditional elite seize power and carve out their own domains. For ordinary people, life goes on. Farmers tend their fields, and merchants trade their goods, but everyone feels the constant presence of the daimyo. These lords build networks of loyal retainers, rewarding their service with land and creating their own local laws. Some regions become surprisingly stable centers of administration, while others are torn apart by constant warfare. The map of Japan transforms into a chaotic patchwork of competing territories, each with its own leader, its own ambitions, and its own dream of one day unifying the entire country under a single banner. From this sea of warlords, 3 towering figures will eventually emerge, known to history as the great unifiers of Japan. The first is Oda Nobunaga, a brash and unconventional lord from the province of Owari in central Japan. In the beginning, few took him seriously. His behavior was seen as erratic and his clan wasn't among the most prestigious, but Nobunaga was a visionary. He combined brilliant military strategy with a radical willingness to break from tradition. He adopted new tactics, promoted talented men regardless of their social standing, and was quick to embrace new technologies, like firearms introduced by European traders. Step by step, Nobunaga defeats one rival after another, securing vital trade routes and extending his influence toward the capital. When his forces finally march into Kyoto, he does something unexpected. Instead of declaring himself shogun, he installs a puppet from the Ashikaga clan, using the shogun's symbolic authority to legitimize his own military campaigns. Behind the scenes, however, everyone knows who holds the real power. Nobunaga encouraged the growth of castle towns, supports free markets, and completely restructures land ownership to reward his most capable followers. Under his iron-willed leadership, the fragmented dream of a unified Japan slowly begins to take shape. But the path to unification is never smooth. Just as Nobunaga seems on the verge of bringing most of Japan under his control, his journey is cut tragically short. Betrayed by one of his own generals, he is forced to take his own life at the temple of Hanoji. In an instant, the man who had reshaped the balance of power is gone, and Japan is once again thrown into uncertainty. Would the dream of unification die with him? Out of the chaos, one of Nobunaga's most brilliant generals steps forward, Toyotomi Hideyoshi. Unlike Nobunaga, Hideyoshi came from a humble background. He wasn't born into a powerful samurai family. In fact, he started as a mere sandal-bearer. But through his sharp intellect, charisma, and unmatched political skill, he had risen to become one of Nobunaga's most trusted commanders. Following Nobunaga's death, Hideyoshi moves with lightning speed. He avenges his fallen lord, rallies key allies to his side, and swiftly crushes any rivals attempting to fill the power vacuum. Before long, he stands as the undisputed heir to Nobunaga's mission. Hideyoshi is not just a military genius. He is a master organizer. He launches massive nationwide land surveys to create a systematic tax base. He formally separates society into classes, decreeing that only samurai are permitted to carry weapons, while farmers must focus on cultivating the land. He orders the construction of immense, magnificent castles, like the one in Osaka, which serve as powerful symbols of his authority and centers of commerce. Through a mix of military campaigns, shrewd negotiations, and sheer force of will, Hideyoshi brings almost every daimyo in Japan under his control. By the late 1580s, the once chaotic map of warring states has been replaced by a unified structure, with nearly all major lords pledging their loyalty to him. The dream of a unified Japan is finally a reality. But even with this incredible achievement, a critical question looms. What happens after Hideyoshi? He has a young son, and his greatest desire is to secure the future for his heir. To ensure a smooth transition, he creates a council of 5 elders, composed of the most powerful daimyo in the land. He makes them swear oaths of loyalty, tasking them with governing as regents until his son is old enough to rule. Among these 5 powerful men is Tokugawa Ieyasu, the patient and cunning lord of the eastern Kanto region. Ieyasu is the ultimate survivor of the Sengoku period. He has weathered decades of turmoil, shifted allegiances when necessary, and quietly built up an incredibly powerful domain centered in the city of Edo. He is a master of patience and long-term strategy. When Hideyoshi finally passes away, the fragile peace he created begins to fracture. The Council of Elders splinters into rival factions. Some remain loyal to Hideyoshi's young heir, while others see an opportunity to seize power for themselves. Standing at the center of this brewing storm is Tokugawa Ieyasu, who has been preparing for this moment his entire life. Ieyasu plays his hand brilliantly. He doesn't rush into conflict. Instead, he bides his time, strengthens his alliances, and consolidates his forces. Eventually, the tension between his faction and those loyal to the Toyotomi clan becomes unbearable. The country once again stands at a crossroads, and the final question of the Sengoku Jidai must be answered. Who will lead Japan into the next century? The decisive moment arrives in the year 1600 at the Battle of Sekigahara. The great lords of Japan divide into 2 massive armies, an eastern army led by Ieyasu and a western army loyal to Hideyoshi's heir. In the largest samurai battle in Japanese history, Ieyasu's strategic genius and political maneuvering win the day. When the dust settles, the era of constant warfare is over. Tokugawa Ieyasu has emerged as the undisputed master of Japan. After his victory, Ieyasu does something truly transformative. Instead of just ruling as another powerful warlord, he establishes a new form of government, the Tokugawa shogunate. He moves the center of political power from Kyoto and Osaka to his own fortress city of Edo, which would one day become modern-day Tokyo. From there, he creates a system designed not for conquest, but for lasting peace and stability. Daimyo are allowed to rule their own domains, but they must follow strict rules, including spending every other year in Edo and leaving their families there as hostages. Under the Tokugawa system, the emperor remains the revered spiritual head of the nation in Kyoto, but real political power flows from the shogun in Edo. The chaos of the Sengoku Jidai finally gives way to an age of peace that will last for over 250 years. Castles transform from military fortresses into administrative centers. A network of roads connects the country, and commerce and culture flourish under a stable new order. Looking back, the Sengoku Jidai was far more than just a century of war. It was a period of radical transformation, where new leaders rose from obscurity, old systems were shattered, and the very concept of government was reimagined. Oda Nobunaga was the disruptor, Toyotomi Hideyoshi was the unifier, and Tokugawa Ieyasu was the great stabilizer who built a foundation for centuries of peace. The journey from the burning ruins of Kyoto to the orderly streets of Edo is the story of how Japan was forged in the fires of conflict, a testament to how generations of struggle can ultimately give birth to an era of lasting unity. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this journey through one of history's most dynamic eras, please like, subscribe, and follow for more stories like this.